Hi. So today we're going to talk about man's search for meaning, a scientific approach. And well, unless you've been living under a rock, I think everyone, well, all over the world, everywhere you look on the internet, I literally just came off looking at a thumbnail of a YouTube channel I like to watch called Einzelganger. I think that's how you pronounce it. And the question was, if life is meaningless, then why live? So, and I saw that thumbnail and I thought, okay, maybe it's time to record this chapter on um, uh, life and finding a scientific purpose for life. Okay, so I won't go on and on about the crisis of purpose facing humanity because I think that's well covered. I mean, it's well documented. It's all over the internet, especially in philosophy channels and stuff. So there's nothing new about that. I'll just try and jump straight into what I think and I've managed to kind of resolve this for myself and share my approach with you. You might agree with it, you might not, but it's a topic that's bothered thousands of philosophers for millennia. So I think we can forgive anyone for not being able to figure it all out in their one lifetime. But anyway, so this is my attempt, and I try to take a scientific approach to things. So the first thing I want to address quickly is what I call the charitable denial of incompatibility between science and religion. It might sound extreme, it might sound harsh, but I promised you that I'll try and make a series of videos and try and maintain some sort of intellectual integrity in the philosophy that I put forward. And I think that charitable as it is, that science and religion are fundamentally incompatible. People might go, oh, well, no, some of the greatest scientists have been religious, some of the greatest, some of the greatest scientists have committed horrendous war crimes. So appealing to authority in that way isn't rational. The reason I say science and religion are fundamentally incompatible is because they're fundamentally different ways of thinking. They're different paradigms of thought. They're different methods of thinking for arriving at empirical truth. So science, giving it away, it's all about being empirical, testing hypotheses, coming up with knowledge, very high degrees of certainty based on empiricism. Whereas most religions tell you to take a leap of faith, which means that they're essentially saying believe in that which is not empirical. And so I think on that basis alone, science and religion will forever be incompatible. It's a huge topic, we can delve into it, but I actually think that there's no need to do that. I think most people will recognize that to a great extent. The allegation that science and religion are compatible is more charitable than factual. So, and I think science will ultimately lead to the obsolescence of religion. It's well on the way, anyway. So, absent God, heaven and hell, and afterlife, what is there to live for? And the question, what is the purpose of life? In philosophy class, we learned that that's the kind of question that comes with what we call an untested premise. When you ask, what's the purpose of life? You've already made an assumption that life has a purpose, and that the only challenge left is to find out what the purpose is. And when discussing this topic with friends and breaking it down, I usually like to take a simple analogy and go like, what is the purpose of water being wet? It sounds like a facetious question, but it really isn't. Water doesn't intend to feel wet or be wet or carry out the properties of wetness. What we call the sensation of wetness, the way water interacts with substances that it comes into contact with, that's just an emergent property of matter. You take your hydrogen atom, stick to oxygen atoms to it, come up with your water molecule, and this water molecule will behave in certain ways. It'll have certain emergent properties. It doesn't have intentions. And I think that's the first step in coming to a scientific scientific answer to the question of what is the purpose of life. Life is an emergent property of matter. All matter, as most people know, is created in the cause of stars, basically universe condensing, and the cause of stars generating matter, and all life comes from matter. So even if we might not be able to understand the entire pathology of how inanimate matter turns into animate matter, we're in no doubt that that we are from matter and that life is necessarily an emergent property of matter. So instead of asking what is the purpose of life, which is an inherently unscientific question and a question that is loaded with an untested and possibly false premise, we should really be asking ourselves, what do the emergent properties of matter that result in life tell us that we ought to do to make our existence, our brief existence, as happy as possible. So, absent God, heaven and hell, what is there for man to live for? So I say, well, how about being a humanist biosphere symbiote? So we evolved this oasis of life in the universe out of no choice of our own. None of us, I mean, the Earth was around for billions and billions of years, with dinosaurs walking it and not knowing they're going to get struck by an asteroid and, create evolutionary space for the shoe that turned into the mammals that turned into us. That was going on for billions of years, with no reference and no regard to the possibility that there would ever be a being that would understand quantum mechanics and fly to the moon, right? So we came into this universe out of no choice of our own. That's a given. And it's something that no one can deny, and it's something that no one can do anything about. It's a sunk cost that has to simply be accepted. The second great axiom is that apart from being here out of no choice of your own, one day you're going to expire, right? So those two are great boundaries to your freedom of action, and that are undeniable and unchallengeable. So within those bounds, those fundamental bounds to your freedom of action, then your only challenge left is to optimize your brief existence for your well-being in line with your naturally given rational faculties within those bounds. Your freedom of action is already defined for you. You can't fight it. So you may as well work within the bounds that have been set to your freedom of action by the universe, right? So How about living in a way that's compassionate to yourself and to the beings that share this oasis of life in the universe, maybe the only one in the universe, and protect the biosphere that sustains you, right? Because you cannot exist, you cannot optimize your existence within the bounds of freedom that have been dictated to you by reality, without protecting the biosphere that made you possible. So I think those are fairly accessible and fairly empirical reasons and axioms that can point us towards a rational cause for living life that isn't based in superstition and afterlives and holier than thou sentimentality. It's just taking the facts as presented to us by the universe and making a rational choice based on those premises. Yeah. So when we talk about morality and life and human emotion and all of these things, it's often easy to forget that everything within the universe, nothing in the universe can be apart from the universe. Everything within the universe is part and parcel of the universe. And so it's easy to forget that everything that exists and everything that comes from life on some level is necessarily a manifestation of the laws of physics at work at some level. So if you watch this great series by Professor Brian Cox on the universe, and I think he has one episode called The Universe in a Snowflake. And he gives a really wonderful illustration. I'll paraphrase it. I'll probably murder the illustration he gave, but it's simple enough to grasp. When we take a snowflake, they say no two snowflakes are alike. I don't know how anyone can possibly know that. It's probably a statistical thing. But when you take a snowflake and you examine it under a microscope, it looks so beautiful, so intricate, such wonderful patterns. You you'd be forgiven. One could be forgiven for thinking that someone actually designed all that beauty, and you know all that beauty had a purpose and an intention. And yet the truth is, it cannot be otherwise than it's just the result of physics at work between water and the atmosphere, way up there in the sky. Laws of physics tell matter how to dance around, produce this beautiful thing called a snowflake that we look at and go, ooh, ah. It had no intention of making humans happy. It had no intention of looking pretty to humans. It's just a manifestation of the laws of physics at work. And there's no getting away from it that everything in the universe, including our consciousness and our ways of behaving and our beliefs, everything on some level is a manifestation of the laws of physics at work. So there cannot be a dichotomy between the universe and its contents. So acting in harmony with the impulses that have been imbued in you by billions of years of physics at work is, in a sense, honoring the laws of the universe in the most fundamental of ways. And that includes your survival, your moral, and your proliferation impulses. So, in closing, I would like to just say, consider the fact that, as far as we can tell, life evolved for the first time on Earth, and we know that the universe is still in her infancy. Scientists sit down and do their great measurements on the evolution of the universe and estimating, the heat death of the universe, everything since the Big Bang. And actually, even at 14, 13.8, 14 billion years old, of which life has life has been aged so far at about 4 billion years old, so about 30% the age of the universe. The universe is still in its infancy. So who knows how much else there is to be discovered, and how much more the universe is going to evolve from where it is right now. But I digress. The main thing is that so far we haven't found anywhere else in the universe where there's life. And if that's the case, then, and if we are the first life in the universe, then Earth is actually a really, really special place. Because in some sense, you could say that if those things are true, then the Earth is the first place that the universe became self-aware through us, which I think would be really profound. And just the possibility that that's indeed the case means that, wow, then Earth really is worth protecting. Can scarcely think of anything more profound than that. So the idea of living as a biosphere symbiote, and like I said earlier, as opposed to being a biosphere pathogen, comes out of very simple rational constructs. You didn't choose to be here. You will one day no longer be here, and you are a manifestation of the laws of physics. And finally, Earth may be a really special place indeed. So, until the next episode, thanks and see you soon.